Hello everyone, and welcome to another Top 5 Records video. I have just seen Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds perform their Wild God tour live in the Ziggo Dome in Amsterdam. And though I usually share reviews of records and lists of records, but since I've just done a Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds month talking about their entire discography and ranking their records, I thought it might be nice to share my experience during this show. Also, the tour has just started. For anyone doubting to buy tickets, what are you going to expect? Well, I'll give you my full experience here. Standing there in the Ziggo Dome, and I'm not sure if anyone knows the venue, the Ziggo Dome. It's not the most atmospheric place, but it is brilliantly organized, and the sound is always very good. I've seen some of my favorite bands perform live there. For example, The Who, Black Sabbath. I've seen Paul McCartney perform there, Neil Young, Elton John, and all of these nights sounded superb. So I thought, sound wise, this has gotta be good. But I didn't know what to expect. Though, of course, I've heard rumors of the quality of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds as performers. Standing there, and they opened, and I'm going to talk about the track list. So if you're afraid to hear some things about the track list, don't watch. There are changes. I mean, they played another night just before the night I went, and there were changes in the set list. So there is no guarantee here. But they opened this night with Frogs from the new album. And it was really bizarre because there was an audience around me from which I suspected, looking at their age, that they might be more interested in some of the older songs. I myself didn't even think about what songs do I expect. I thought he'd play some songs from Wild God, but the first two tracks were immediately from Wild God, Frogs, and the second song was Wild God. And although these are relatively new songs, it took over the crowd, it took over the room. There was this conviction. They were so fully into it. The moment Nick Cave entered the stage, a presence gets on that, seriously, I have seen concert films, but seeing him in the flesh is beyond your wildest imagination. This figure of charisma just stands there, but it's not a charisma for his own ego. It is somebody who is fully convinced of the quality of what he's singing. And you notice that in every vein of his body during these songs, Frogs and Wild God. But he's also fully convinced that the audience is there to embrace these songs. It is such a complete different situation as what I was talking about in another video with the War on Drugs. Brilliant band, but the audience and the band were sort of doing their own thing there in the Ziggo Dome. I've had sort of like experiences even with Neil Young, who's incredibly good, but when there's a noise in the audience, people are going out for drinks more. Um, Also, you have moments with shows that the artist does do an incredible show. Like I've seen Roger Waters do his not his last tour, but the tour before that, the S and Them tour, twice in the Ziggo Dome as well. And it's this large, incredible show, and the audience is fully engaged. But it's rehearsed. It's rehearsed. There's no love that show, brilliant show. Um, but it is as if you're going to see the Louvre or the Eiffel Tower. It will be there the next day. That idea is completely gone because the moment Nick Cave steps on the stage, everyone there knows this is the momentum, and there is this bizarre, authentic love for the audience. I mean, Nick Cave does say it, "I love you," but that's the interesting for the word "I love you." I'm a filmmaker. The words "I love you" are so often used in films, but they can mean so many different things because they are often used inauthentic. When Nick Cave says it, I believe it. Seriously, when he says it, I believe it. And there is this strange bond between him and the audience that is just mesmerizing. only seen a performer once, and it was 2 or 3 years ago with Iggy Pop, that he walked on stage and you noticed that he had to be there at that moment. And at that moment, you don't want to be at any other place than looking at this figure. Um, there was this beautiful documentary in which Nick Cave said that his father, when he saw him for the first time, made a comment that the moment Nick Cave appeared or on stage, he evolved or looked like an angel. And I thought, that's a very sweet thing to say of a father. He must love his son truly. Little did I know that the moment Nick Cave does walk on stage, something angelic happens. Seriously, and I've seen my share of gigs. This is just mesmerizing stage presence, and I've been talking about the presence of Nick Cave now constantly, almost ignoring the fact that there is this band that is so good. Warren Ellis is also a presence. I mean, he is this enigmatic genius on every instrument he touches. And they take off. I mean, Frogs, Wild God. Third song was already emotional because it was the day that Maggie Smith died. And Maggie Smith played McGonagall in the Harry Potter series. And in the Harry Potter series, the Harry Potter fans know this, the Nick Cave fans know this. There's one pop song in the Harry Potter series. There's a scene in which Harry Potter and Hermione Granger, they dance in a tent. It's a beautiful, intimate song, and they do that to the song "Oh Children." And the third song there, on the day Maggie Smith died, I just did an interview for Dutch radio about Maggie Smith because of I talk on radio sometimes because I'm a filmmaker. I love film. I'm an even bigger film geek than a music geek, perhaps. Well, that's a tie. But and that in mind, stepping into Oh Children, I thought that must be special. It wasn't special because he did it the same day, the day before. He did not make a remark about Maggie Smith. Yet this bond was starting to grow and an emotional connotation. Then the fourth song, he just throws in Jubilee Street. And he plays it like it's the first time they played that song. I get goosebumps just talking about it. Then From Her to Eternity. Mesmerizing. The sheer energy, the sheer power of that performance. I mean, you're 5 songs in, and I was standing next to a friend of mine, and we frequently go to concerts together, and he just said, "This is the best one I've ever seen. This is the best one." And he might be right. This is one of the most mesmerizing concerts I've ever seen, and it's already at number 5. Then you get a lot of songs. You get Long Dark Night, Cinnamon Horses. They do these songs incredible. There are a lot of Wild God songs in this show. So if you're hoping to get a Nick Cave's greatest hits, you might be disappointed. I think I hope for more of the old songs, but seeing them perform, although I like Wild God, but seeing him perform or them perform these songs with the freshness and the conviction, it is. I mean, he needs it. I believe that if you are stepping on a stage, so fully embracing your current emotion, standing in this momentum, you gotta remain true to the songs that are relevant for you at this moment, which makes it, I guess, easier to do some of the old songs. It's astonishing how good From Her to Eternity sounds for a song that's been more than 40 years old, and how fresh and convincing it is. I think it's got to do because they make choices to remain relevant to their unique emotions. There are so many artists who have a catalog like Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds who go for the greatest hits set list. And something in me desires that. Something in me just desires to see the big hits purely done live by a big name. But that is an element of projection if you want to remain fresh, if you want to give the audience the idea that you're there at a unique moment in time. These new songs are relevant and they're done so well. You are constantly looking at somebody and a band that has something to say, that it looks as if they just reinvented themselves. They're close to their songs. You have it in so many songs. Bright Horses. I love the version of Tupelo they did. Joy was beautiful. I Need You. Carnage from the Nick Cave and Warren Ellis album. Beautiful. There was only one tiny moment that I thought, oh, this one is not entirely working. And it might not be the one that Nick Cave thought didn't work, because there was one in the Encore, which I really loved. I'll get to that later. But the 16th song here is Red Right Hand. Great song. Love that song. And it's one of those songs you've heard so many times before. And though Nick Cave was trying to give it the full energy, tonally and sound wise, I noticed it's not as daring as all the other songs in the show. He went flat sometimes, and I do not mind some of these tiny mistakes. I've heard Nick Cave make mistakes at the piano all the time, and I'm not very cautious of those kind of things. But I don't care. I mean, it's this moment. It's good, and he's convincing. So these mistakes are not that interesting. Only I thought that one song, I love that song, Red Right Hand. Audience loved it, though. It worked in the audience. But I got the sense he wasn't fully into it. The next song, The Mercy Seat, he was trying to get it back, trying to get that vibe back. And though the performance, vocally and all, was superb, I thought that song was just a little bit too slow for my taste. But I mean, nitpicking here, because this is, in any other regard, a truly bizarre, unique gig. Then he went to White Elephant, a couple of moments of break, then the first encore, because we're talking about two encores here. I love that. First encore, Palaces of Montezuma, a Grinder Man song. Nailed it. And you noticed at that moment, the freshness was at the level of the beginning of the show. So good. And we're almost more than 2 hours into a show. I mean, this kind of energy is just astonishing. Then he talked about Wanted Man. He introduced Wanted Man. It was clear that they didn't rehearse it, because after they did the song, he said, "You're the only one who's going to listen to it, because we're not going to get back to it." During the song, he even said, "We don't know what we're doing." He introduced it as a Bob Dylan song that Bob Dylan never recorded. I thought it was a Johnny Cash song, or it's something partially done by Dylan, something partially done by Cash. I loved every second of it. Even though they were somewhat searching to what shape to give that song, doesn't matter. It was so fully convincing. So good. Then Into My Arms. Masterpiece of songwriting. As the Waters Cover the Sea. And after that, slight break. And then ending off with the Weeping Song. I mean, yeah, this is one of the most mesmerizing shows I have ever seen. If there are gonna be tickets available in a country nearby, I'm gonna go again. Seriously, gonna go again. And anytime he'll get back to where I live, I'm gonna watch him again. I had tickets before, but the for a gig that was canceled due to COVID, and I have realized in the Ziggo Dome, watching Nick Cave the Bad Seeds, that any occasion that I can see them, I should, because these are the gigs that remain with you. I hope and guess a lifetime. So I'm curious, what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave a comment below, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.